The winter of 1887 arrived with a storm unlike anything the Rocky Mountains had seen for many years. Thick snow covered every trail, while freezing winds howled across the valleys. Travelers disappeared beneath the endless white landscape, and even experienced hunters refused to leave their cabins after sunset. The wilderness had become a place where only the strongest could survive. Far from every town, a young cowboy named James Carter guided his loyal horse through the deep snow. James owned nothing except a small wooden cabin, an old revolver, and the horse that had been his only companion since childhood. Although poor, he was respected by everyone, who knew him because he never ignored a person in need. As the blizzard grew stronger, James noticed fresh horse tracks disappearing toward the frozen cliffs. Curious, he followed them until he discovered a beautiful white horse standing alone, trembling in the storm. The saddle was covered with expensive silver decorations, proving it belonged to someone wealthy. James searched the surrounding area, calling for anyone who might hear him. Moments later, he found a young woman lying unconscious beneath the snow beside a broken wagon. She wore an elegant blue winter dress beneath a heavy fur coat. Her face was pale from the freezing cold, yet her beauty seemed untouched even by the storm. Without hesitation, James wrapped her inside his own warm blanket, lifted her carefully onto his horse, and rode toward his small cabin while the blizzard became even more dangerous. Hours later, the young woman slowly opened her eyes beside the fireplace. She looked around the tiny cabin with confusion.
Where am I?
James smiled gently. You are safe now. She thanked him but refused to reveal her name. She only said that powerful men were searching for her, and that if they found the cabin, both of them would die. Outside, the wind suddenly became silent. Then the sound of dozens of galloping horses echoed across the frozen valley. James looked through the window. Dark riders, carrying burning torches, were surrounding the cabin from every direction. The frozen valley disappeared beneath thick, falling snow as the sound of galloping horses grew louder every second. James quickly placed another log into the fireplace before looking toward the frightened young woman. She stood beside the small window, watching the burning torches move through the darkness. Her hands trembled, yet her eyes remained filled with quiet courage. James reached for his old revolver hanging beside the wooden door. Who are they? The young woman lowered her head. If I tell you the truth, you may ask me to leave. James answered without hesitation. No one leaves this cabin during a storm. Not while I am alive. Before she could reply, loud knocking shook the cabin door. A deep voice echoed outside. Open the door in the name of the governor. James slowly opened the door just enough to face the strangers. More than 20 armed riders stood outside wearing black winter coats. Their leader carried a silver badge shaped like an eagle. Have you seen a young woman traveling through these mountains? James calmly looked into the man's eyes. Only wolves and snow, nothing more. The captain studied James for several silent moments before signaling his riders to continue searching. As the horses disappeared into the storm, the young woman released a quiet breath of relief. You just saved my life. James smiled gently. Everyone deserves another chance. The young woman finally introduced herself. My name is Emily. At least that is the name I must use for now. She explained that dangerous people wanted something her late father had hidden before he died. She did not know exactly what it was, only that it could change the future of the entire western frontier. James listened carefully but asked no further questions. The storm outside slowly faded as morning sunlight touched the snowy mountains. Suddenly, James noticed something shining beneath Emily's coat. A beautiful golden necklace carrying an ancient, royal crest unlike anything he had ever seen. Before either of them could examine it closely, another horse arrived outside. This time, only one rider appeared. An elderly man, wearing a long black coat, climbed down from his horse. When he saw Emily, tears filled his eyes. Princess, thank heaven I finally found you. The small cabin became completely silent after the elderly man spoke the unexpected word. James looked toward Emily with confusion, while she closed her eyes as though a secret she had hidden for years had finally escaped. The old man slowly removed his snow-covered hat and knelt before her. Princess Emily Ashford, I promised your father I would find you before the hunters did. James stepped forward, keeping one hand near his revolver. "Who are you?" The stranger stood and answered calmly. "My name is Arthur Bennett. I served your father for more than 30 years. Before he died, he ordered me to protect the last heir of the Ashford kingdom." James frowned. "There has never been a kingdom in these mountains." Arthur smiled sadly. "That is exactly what everyone was meant to believe. Many years ago, these valleys belonged to the Ashford family. They ruled with justice until greedy businessmen and corrupt politicians stole their land and erased every record of the kingdom from history." Emily slowly removed the golden necklace from beneath her coat. The royal crest glowed beside the fire. "My father told me never to show this unless I completely trusted someone." Arthur looked toward James. "She trusted you the moment you carried her through the storm." James remained silent, unsure whether to believe the unbelievable story. Arthur reached inside his coat and unfolded an ancient map drawn on faded leather. "Only this map can lead us to the hidden royal vault where the crown of Ashford still rests. Whoever wears it with the original royal documents becomes the rightful ruler of every valley from Black River to Eagle Ridge." Before anyone could continue, loud gunshots echoed outside. One bullet shattered the cabin window. Snow blew into the room as masked riders surrounded the cabin from every direction. Their leader stepped forward, holding a rifle. "Arthur Bennett, hand over the princess and the royal map, or everyone inside dies today." James loaded his revolver and looked at Emily. "Stay behind me. No matter what happens, I will not let them take you." The first gunshot shattered the cabin window, sending pieces of glass across the wooden floor. James immediately pulled Emily behind the heavy dining table while Arthur rolled toward the fireplace, protecting the ancient royal map. More bullets struck the cabin walls as the masked riders surrounded the clearing, waiting for their leader to give the order to attack. James carefully looked through the broken window. "There are at least 30 of them." Arthur quietly nodded. "They belong to the Black Wolf Brotherhood. They have hunted the Ashford family for nearly 20 years. Emily looked toward the old map resting beside Arthur. "If they take that map, everything my father protected will be lost forever." James tightened his grip on his revolver. "Then we leave before they reach the door." Arthur walked to the back of the cabin and pushed aside an old wooden cupboard. Hidden beneath it was a narrow, stone passage leading into the frozen forest. "Your father built this escape tunnel years ago. He always believed this day would come." The cabin door suddenly burst open. Masked riders rushed inside, shouting for the princess. James fired his revolver, forcing them backward, while Arthur and Emily disappeared into the hidden tunnel. James quickly followed, pulling the stone door closed behind them. The tunnel stretched deep beneath the snow-covered hills until it opened inside a forest of towering frozen pine trees. Morning sunlight reflected from the ice, making the entire valley shine like crystal. For a few peaceful moments, no one spoke. Then Arthur pointed toward the distant mountains. "Beyond those peaks stands Frost Crown Fortress. The royal vault lies beneath it." Emily looked at James with grateful eyes. "You have already risked everything for someone you barely know." James smiled quietly. "Some people are worth protecting even before you know their story." Suddenly, the sound of hunting horns echoed through the forest. The Black Wolf Brotherhood had found the tunnel exit. Their riders appeared between the snow-covered trees, racing directly toward them. At the front rode a tall man, dressed entirely in black, carrying a silver rifle. Arthur recognized him immediately. His face turned pale. "That is General Victor Kane, the man who murdered your father." The frozen forest echoed with the thunder of galloping horses as General Victor Kane led the Black Wolf Brotherhood through the towering pine trees. Snow flew beneath their horses, while the cold morning wind carried the sound of hunting horns across the mountains. James guided Emily and Arthur toward a narrow mountain trail, hoping the deep forest would slow their pursuers. Victor Kane calmly raised his silver rifle. "Do not kill the princess. Bring her to me alive." The riders spread across the forest, attempting to surround the escaping group. James looked behind and realized they were quickly losing ground. Arthur pointed toward a frozen river ahead. "Cross the ice. The horses will never catch us there." Without hesitation, James urged his horse forward. Emily followed closely while Arthur guarded the rear. They reached the frozen river just as the first riders entered the clearing. The thick ice cracked beneath the weight of the horses. James carefully guided everyone across while Victor Kane watched from the riverbank. His cold smile never disappeared. He lifted his silver rifle. One perfect shot echoed through the valley. The bullet struck the ice behind Arthur. A massive crack spread across the frozen river. Within seconds, huge sections of ice collapsed into the freezing water. Arthur lost control of his horse and disappeared beneath the broken ice. Emily screamed his name. James immediately jumped from his horse, grabbing a long tree branch he reached toward Arthur just as the freezing current pulled him away. With every ounce of strength, James dragged the old man back onto solid ice. Arthur coughed heavily but managed to protect the ancient royal map beneath his coat. Victor Kane watched everything through the scope of his rifle. Interesting. The cowboy is far more dangerous than I expected. He lowered the weapon and signaled his men to stop chasing. Let them reach Frostcrown Fortress. The royal vault cannot be opened without the princess. And once it is opened, the crown will belong to me, unaware of Victor's true plan. James, Emily, and Arthur finally reached the safety of the northern mountains. As the sun disappeared behind the snow-covered peaks, the ruins of a gigantic stone fortress slowly emerged from the mist. Above its ancient gate was the same royal crest hanging around Emily's neck. The journey had only just begun. The enormous stone walls of Frostcrown Fortress rose above the mountains like silent guardians forgotten by time. Thick snow covered every tower, while frozen vines climbed across the ancient gates. James, Emily, and Arthur stood quietly before the entrance. Each of them felt that the journey had led them to a place where history had been waiting for many years. Emily slowly stepped toward the giant iron gate. She placed her golden necklace against the royal crest carved into the stone. For several silent moments, nothing happened. Then a deep rumbling echoed through the mountain. The ancient gates slowly opened. Cold air rushed from the darkness as though the fortress had awakened after decades of silence. James carefully drew his revolver while Arthur lifted a burning lantern. Inside, they discovered a magnificent hall lined with enormous marble pillars. Royal banners still hung from the walls, despite the passing years. Golden statues stood untouched beneath layers of dust, reminding everyone that this had once been the heart of a forgotten kingdom. Arthur smiled softly. Your ancestors ruled from this very hall. Emily looked around with tears in her eyes. It feels like home. Suddenly, James noticed strange footprints leading deeper into the fortress. Someone had entered recently. Arthur examined the tracks. They are fresh. We are not alone. The three followed the footprints until they reached a grand circular chamber. In its center stood a beautiful crystal throne, resting upon a raised stone platform. Behind it, a massive steel door displayed 7 golden locks. Arthur unfolded the ancient map. The royal vault lies behind that door. Emily placed her necklace into the first lock. One lock opened. At that very moment, loud footsteps echoed through the fortress. General Victor Kane slowly emerged from the shadows, followed by dozens of Black Wolf soldiers. He smiled with complete confidence. Thank you, Princess. Without your necklace, I could never have entered this place. James immediately raised his revolver and stepped in front of Emily. Victor calmly laughed. Do you really believe one cowboy can stop an army? Before James could answer, another voice echoed from the darkness above. Leave the princess alone. A mysterious masked warrior jumped from the upper balcony, holding 2 shining swords. Everyone turned in complete shock. No one knew who the stranger was. But the battle for the Lost Kingdom had finally begun. The mysterious warrior landed gracefully between Emily and General Victor Kane, twin. Swords flashed beneath the frozen light, while every Black Wolf soldier hesitated for the first time. Since entering the fortress, Victor had expected no resistance. Yet the stranger stood with complete confidence, as though protecting. The ancient kingdom had always been their destiny. Victor slowly smiled. Remove your mask. The warrior remained silent. Instead, the stranger pointed one sword toward Victor and the other toward his soldiers, inviting them to attack. Victor raised his hand. Capture the warrior. Do not damage the princess. More than 20 Black Wolf soldiers rushed forward. James immediately joined the fight, firing his revolver only when necessary while protecting. Emily Arthur hid behind one of the marble pillars, guarding the ancient royal map. The mysterious warrior moved with incredible speed. Every strike forced another soldier backward without taking a single innocent life. Within moments, several attackers lay unconscious across the stone floor. Emily watched in amazement. Whoever the stranger was, they fought like one of the legendary royal guardians described in her father's stories. Victor frowned. Impossible. Every royal guardian died years ago. The warrior suddenly removed a small silver whistle from beneath the cloak and blew a sharp signal that echoed through the fortress. Heavy footsteps answered from outside. Seconds later, a group of armored mountain guardians entered through the ancient gates, carrying shields marked with the Ashford royal crest. Their leader immediately knelt before Emily. "Your Highness, we have waited 20 years for your return." Tears filled Emily's eyes. "You never abandoned the kingdom." The old captain smiled proudly. "A guardian keeps the promise until the rightful ruler comes home." Victor realized the battle had turned against him. He threw a smoke bomb onto the stone floor. Thick grey smoke filled the chamber. When the air finally cleared, Victor and his remaining soldiers had disappeared. James looked toward the mysterious warrior. Slowly the stranger removed the black mask. Everyone gasped. Standing before them was a beautiful young woman wearing silver armor. She smiled gently at Emily. "My name is Sophia. I am your cousin, and I know where your father hid the royal crown." Silence settled across the ancient fortress after Sophia revealed her true identity. Emily looked at her cousin with disbelief while the mountain guardians respectfully lowered their weapons. James remained alert, knowing Victor Kane would never abandon his search for the royal crown. Arthur carefully unfolded the old map, once again comparing it with the symbols carved into the crystal throne. Sophia stepped toward the throne and gently placed her hand upon its frozen surface. "Your father trusted me with the final secret before he disappeared. The crown was never hidden inside the royal vault. It rests beneath the throne itself." Emily slowly approached, carrying the golden necklace around her neck. As she placed the royal crest into a small opening beneath the armrest, a deep rumble echoed through the chamber. The crystal throne slowly moved aside, revealing a circular staircase descending into darkness. Cold air rose from below, carrying the scent of ancient stone and forgotten history. James lit a lantern and led the way, while Emily, Sophia, Arthur, and the royal guardians followed behind. After several minutes, they entered a magnificent underground chamber. Golden pillars reached toward the ceiling, while beautiful murals covered every wall, telling the history of the Ashford kingdom. At the center of the chamber stood a marble pedestal. Resting upon it was a breathtaking golden crown decorated with blue diamonds and a brilliant sapphire that reflected the lantern light across the entire room. Emily slowly reached toward the crown. Before her fingers touched it, the ground suddenly shook violently. Huge iron gates crashed shut behind them. Victor Kane stepped onto the balcony above, laughing triumphantly. "You have done exactly what I hoped. Only the true heir could reveal the hidden chamber. Now the crown and the kingdom belong to me." At his command, dozens of Black Wolf soldiers surrounded the chamber from every entrance. James raised his revolver, while the mountain guardians formed a protective circle around Emily. Sophia quietly pointed toward another ancient symbol carved into the floor. "There's one more secret passage, but it only opens for the rightful queen." Emily took a deep breath and lifted the royal crown from the pedestal. The sapphire suddenly burst into brilliant blue light. The entire underground kingdom began to awaken. The brilliant blue light from the royal crown filled the underground chamber as every ancient wall began to glow with golden symbols. Emily held the crown with trembling hands while the sapphire shone brighter than the morning sun. James stepped protectively beside her, raising his revolver toward Victor Kane and the Black Wolf soldiers waiting above. The entire fortress shook violently. Massive stone gears hidden beneath the floor slowly turned for the first time in hundreds of years. Sophia smiled with hope. "The kingdom recognizes its rightful queen." Arthur quickly unfolded the ancient map. "Look, The secret passages are appearing, golden lines slowly illuminated across the floor, leading toward a hidden doorway behind the marble throne. Victor Kane shouted with anger, "Take the crown now!" Dozens of Black Wolf soldiers charged into the chamber. James fired several warning shots while the Royal Guardians raised, their shields protecting Emily. The underground hall exploded into chaos. Steel clashed against steel while echoes of battle filled the Forgotten Kingdom. Sophia fought beside James with incredible speed, forcing the attackers backward. Meanwhile, Emily followed the glowing path until she reached the hidden doorway. She gently placed the royal crown into a circular stone holder. Another deep rumble echoed beneath the mountains. The hidden door slowly opened, revealing an enormous underground city, untouched by time. Beautiful stone houses, crystal rivers, golden bridges, and magnificent towers stretched into the darkness, illuminated by thousands of glowing blue crystals hanging from the ceiling. Everyone stood speechless. Arthur whispered, "The lost kingdom still lives." Before anyone could step inside, a young boy wearing royal clothing emerged from the hidden city carrying an ancient silver sword. He looked directly at Emily, then slowly knelt before her. "Your Majesty, we have waited for your return for 20 years. Victor Kane stared at the hidden city with greedy eyes. At last, unlimited treasure, unlimited power. He pushed his own soldiers aside and ran toward the glowing entrance. The moment he crossed the ancient gate, a loud voice echoed throughout the underground kingdom. "Only those with an honest heart may enter." Suddenly, the glowing gate burst with blinding blue light. Victor Kane screamed as the ancient magic threw him violently back across the chamber. Then a far more terrifying sound echoed from deep beneath the kingdom. Something enormous had awakened below the city. The deep roar echoed through the hidden kingdom, shaking every tower, bridge, and crystal cave. Blue light flowed across the ancient walls as frightened birds flew from their nests high above the underground city. Emily still wore the royal crown while James stood beside her, protecting the entrance. Arthur, Sophia, and the mountain guardians formed a defensive circle around their queen. The young royal messenger slowly stood and pointed toward the deepest part of the hidden city. "The guardian has awakened. He protects the kingdom from anyone with darkness in their heart." Victor Kane slowly climbed to his feet after being thrown back by the glowing gate. His face burned with anger, but his eyes still searched for the endless treasure, hidden beyond the ancient walls. "No creature will stop me." He ordered every remaining Black Wolf soldier to attack. The soldiers rushed toward the glowing entrance. The ground suddenly split apart. From the darkness below emerged an enormous white wolf larger than any horse. Its silver fur shimmered beneath the blue crystals, while glowing sapphire eyes watched every movement. Golden armor covered its powerful body, and an ancient royal crest rested upon its forehead. Every guardian immediately lowered their weapons. Sophia whispered, "The royal guardian." Our legends were true. The giant wolf looked directly at Emily. Without fear, she slowly walked forward, placing one hand upon the royal crown. The wolf gently lowered its massive head before her. A warm blue light surrounded them both. The ancient guardian had accepted Emily as the rightful queen. Victor Kane fired his rifle at the enormous wolf. Before the bullet reached its target, a glowing shield appeared around the guardian. The bullet melted into dust. The wolf released a mighty roar that echoed across the underground kingdom. Powerful waves of light swept through the chamber, knocking every Black Wolf soldier onto the ground. Victor dropped his rifle and stumbled backward in terror. James quickly seized the opportunity, tying Victor's hands before he could escape. Just as everyone believed the danger had ended, Arthur noticed another symbol glowing upon the ancient map. His face suddenly turned pale. The map reveals another secret. Someone even more powerful than Victor Kane is already searching for the lost kingdom. Far beyond the northern mountains, a mysterious woman wearing a black royal crown quietly smiled as she unfolded an identical ancient map. The true war for the kingdom had only just begun. Reached the hidden kingdom beneath the mountains. Yet thousands of glowing blue crystals filled every street with a peaceful golden glow. Emily stood upon the ancient palace balcony, wearing the royal crown. while James, Sophia, Arthur, and the mountain guardians prepared the city for the danger that Arthur had discovered on the ancient map. The old scholar carefully spread the map across a marble table. There are 2 royal crowns. The golden crown belongs to the rightful ruler. The black crown was created for the royal family member who betrayed the kingdom many generations ago. Sophia looked toward Arthur with concern. Then the woman beyond the northern mountains. Arthur slowly nodded. She carries the black crown. Emily gently removed the golden crown and held it in both hands. Who is she? Arthur opened another hidden page inside the map. Her name is Queen Morgana. She is the last descendant of the forgotten Black Royal bloodline. For 20 years, she has searched every kingdom, fortress, and ancient temple, hoping to reclaim the throne. James looked toward the northern mountains. Then she will come here soon. Before anyone answered, a young mountain guardian rushed into the palace. Your Majesty, our northern watchtower has signaled danger. Emily hurried outside with everyone following close behind. Far across the snowy mountains, hundreds of black banners moved through the valleys. An enormous army slowly approached the hidden kingdom. At its front rode a beautiful woman dressed in black royal armor. A long, dark cloak flowed behind her while a shining black crown rested upon her head. She stopped her horse upon a frozen cliff overlooking the hidden city. Even from that distance, her voice echoed across the mountains. Emily Ashford, surrender the golden crown, and your people will live. Emily stepped forward without fear. This kingdom belongs to its people, not to tyrants. Queen Morgana smiled calmly. Then prepare for war. She slowly raised an ancient black crystal into the sky. Dark clouds covered the mountains. The ground began to shake. From beneath the frozen earth, thousands of shadow soldiers started, rising toward the hidden kingdom. The greatest battle in Ashford history was about to begin. The dark sky covered the mountains as thousands of shadow soldiers marched toward the hidden kingdom. Their glowing red eyes filled the snowy valleys, while Queen Morgana watched from the highest cliff, wearing the ancient black crown. Emily stood upon the palace walls beside James, Sophia, Arthur, and the mountain guardians. The peaceful kingdom had become a fortress preparing for the greatest battle in its history. James looked across the endless enemy army. There are too many. Arthur calmly unfolded the ancient royal map. Not every warrior protecting this kingdom is alive. Emily turned toward him. What do you mean? Arthur pointed toward a golden symbol beneath the palace. Long ago, the first royal guardians swore an eternal promise. If the kingdom ever faced complete destruction, they would rise again to defend the rightful queen. Sophia immediately understood. The Hall of Heroes. Emily placed the golden crown upon her head and hurried beneath the palace with James, Arthur, and Sophia. Following closely, deep below the royal halls, they entered a magnificent chamber filled with hundreds of marble statues. Each statue held a sword across its chest, while royal banners hung from the ceiling. Emily slowly touched the ancient royal seal carved into the center of the floor. A warm golden light spread through the chamber. One by one, the marble statues began turning into living warriors wearing shining silver armor. Their captain stepped forward and knelt before Emily. Your Majesty, the royal guardians have returned. Outside the palace, Queen Morgana raised the black crown high above her head. The shadow army charged across the frozen valley, shaking the mountains beneath. Thousands of marching feet. Emily walked through the palace gates wearing the golden crown, while James rode beside her carrying his revolver and a royal sword. Sophia led the mountain guardians as the legendary Silver Army marched behind them. The two great armies stopped only a few steps apart. Snow fell silently between both queens. Morgana slowly smiled. Give me the golden crown, Emily answered with quiet courage. Never. At that exact moment, the first battle horn echoed across the mountains. The final war for the Lost Kingdom had begun. The frozen valley trembled beneath thousands of marching warriors as the battle horns echoed across the mountains. Emily stood proudly before the royal guardians wearing the golden crown, while James remained at her side holding both his trusted revolver and the ancient royal sword. Snow drifted between the two armies, creating a silent moment before the storm of battle. Queen Morgana slowly lifted the black crown above her head. Shadow soldiers charge. The dark army rushed forward like a black river sweeping across the snow. The royal guardians answered with shining shields and silver swords. Steel crashed against steel, while arrows filled the grey sky. Horses galloped through the frozen valley, and the mountains echoed with the sounds of war. James fought beside Sophia, protecting Emily from every direction. His revolver forced enemy commanders backward, while the ancient sword flashed beneath the falling snow. Arthur remained near the palace, studying the royal map. Suddenly he noticed another hidden symbol glowing beneath the battlefield. "There is one final secret." He hurried toward Emily. "Your Majesty, beneath this valley lies the tomb of the first king. Only his sword can defeat the Black Crown." Emily immediately understood. "James, come with me." Sophia and the royal guardians held the battle line, while Emily, James, and Arthur rode toward an ancient stone monument standing alone in the middle of the frozen valley. As Emily placed the golden crown upon the monument, the ground slowly opened, revealing a magnificent staircase leading deep beneath the mountains. Inside the hidden chamber rested a beautiful crystal coffin surrounded by golden light. Across the chest of the first king lay a breathtaking sword forged from silver and blue crystal. James carefully reached toward it. The moment his hand touched the sword, the chamber filled with brilliant light. The spirit of the first king appeared before them. "You have protected the rightful queen with courage and honor. From this day, the sword of Ashford belongs to you." James lifted the glowing sword as blue light surrounded the entire chamber. Far above the battlefield, Queen Morgana felt the ancient power awaken. For the first time, fear appeared in her eyes. She quietly whispered, "Impossible. The sword of the first king has chosen its new guardian." The hidden chamber glowed with brilliant blue light. As James lifted the sword of the first king, the ancient blade shimmered with living power, while the spirit of the first king slowly faded into the light. Emily stood proudly beside him, wearing the golden crown, while Arthur smiled with hope. The destiny of the kingdom had finally begun to change. Far above the battlefield, Queen Morgana felt the ancient magic spread through the frozen valley. Her black crown suddenly grew dim for the first time in many years. Impossible! The sword should never have awakened again. She raised both hands toward the dark clouds. Shadow warriors surrounded her, protecting their queen as she prepared one final attack. Emily, James, and Arthur returned to the battlefield through the hidden passage. The royal guardians immediately cheered when they saw the glowing sword. Even Sophia smiled with relief. "The guardian has chosen its champion." James stepped forward holding the legendary weapon. A wave of blue light spread across the snow, forcing hundreds of shadow soldiers backward. Queen Morgana charged across the battlefield, riding her black horse with incredible speed. Her dark sword crashed against the sword of the first king, sending sparks across the frozen ground. The two warriors fought beneath the falling snow. While both armies watched in silence, every strike shook the valley with ancient power. Emily walked calmly toward the center of the battlefield, carrying only the golden crown. Morgana looked at her with burning anger. "Everything should have belonged to me." Emily answered gently, "Power taken through fear can never become a true kingdom." She lifted the golden crown high into the air. A brilliant beam of golden light surrounded the battlefield. The black crown suddenly cracked. Dark shadows disappeared into the sky as the shadow army slowly faded into dust. Morgana dropped to her knees, staring at the broken black crown in disbelief. The battle was over. The mountains became silent once again. Just then, Arthur noticed another message appearing upon the ancient royal map. His face slowly turned pale. "The lost kingdom has been saved, but the map now reveals another hidden kingdom beyond the great western ocean." Emily looked toward the distant horizon. Their greatest journey had not yet begun. The frozen mountains rested peacefully beneath a bright blue sky after the great battle. The people of the Ashford kingdom celebrated their freedom, while children once again filled the streets with laughter. Emily wore the golden crown with quiet pride, and James remained beside her carrying the sword of the first king. The kingdom had finally found hope after many years of darkness. Inside the royal palace, Arthur carefully examined the ancient map once more. New glowing lines slowly appeared across the faded parchment, stretching far beyond the western frontier. Across the endless ocean, another royal symbol began shining with golden light. Sophia looked at the mysterious map. "I've never seen these markings before." Arthur gently touched the glowing symbol. "The map only reveals new paths after the rightful queen restores peace to each kingdom." Emily looked toward the distant horizon. "Then another kingdom still needs our help." Before anyone could answer, a royal messenger hurried into the palace carrying an old wooden chest covered with sea salt and strange shells. "Your Majesty, fishermen found this floating beside the western cliffs this morning." James carefully opened the chest. Inside rested a beautiful silver compass, an ancient blue crystal, and a weathered letter sealed with an unfamiliar royal crest. Emily slowly unfolded the letter. "The kingdom of Azure Isles is falling. Our enemies have awakened the sea crown. Only the Queen of Ashford and the guardian of the first king can stop the coming darkness. Please come before the final lighthouse falls." Arthur recognized the royal seal immediately. The Azure Kingdom disappeared from every map almost 100 years ago. Everyone believed it had sunk beneath the sea. James held the glowing compass. "It is pointing west, toward the ocean." Outside the palace, bells suddenly rang across the kingdom. From the highest watchtower, a guard shouted toward the valley, "Ships!" Hundreds of black warships are approaching the western coast. Emily, James, Sophia, Arthur, and the royal guardians climbed the palace walls. Far beyond the mountains, dark sails filled the distant sea, while enormous warships slowly moved toward the kingdom. At the front stood a mysterious captain wearing shining blue armor and holding a glowing silver trident. The stranger raised the weapon toward the shore. The next chapter of their destiny had arrived. The western coast trembled beneath the sound of war drums. As hundreds of black warships slowly surrounded the shoreline, their enormous sails blocked the afternoon sun, while frightened villagers gathered behind the stone walls of Ashford Harbor. Emily stood upon the highest watchtower wearing the golden crown. James remained beside her carrying the sword of the first. King Sophia, Arthur, and the royal guardians prepared the kingdom for another battle. The mysterious captain stepped onto the front deck of the largest warship. His shining blue armor reflected the waves, while the glowing silver trident in his hand seemed to command the sea itself. Without raising his voice, he spoke across the water. "Queen Emily of Ashford, return the sea crystal hidden inside your kingdom, or every harbor along this coast will fall before sunset." Emily looked toward Arthur. "Sea crystal." Arthur slowly opened the ancient map. A new blue symbol had appeared beside the western coast. "The sea crystal is one of the 4 royal relics. The golden crown is only the first." James looked toward the approaching fleet. If he controls another relic, he could become stronger than Morgana ever was. Suddenly the sea beneath the ships began to glow. The captain lifted his silver trident high into the sky. Massive waves rose like giant walls surrounding the harbor. People screamed as fishing boats were thrown into the air. Sophia shouted, "The harbor gates cannot survive that wave." James immediately ran toward the lighthouse standing beside the cliffs. The ancient map shows another royal seal there. Emily followed, carrying the golden crown. Inside the old lighthouse, they discovered a beautiful crystal resting beneath the stone floor. Blue light filled the room as the golden crown began shining brighter than ever before. Arthur smiled with surprise. "The sea crystal has been protecting Ashford all along." The captain suddenly looked toward the lighthouse. His calm face changed for the first time. He whispered only one name. "Impossible. Princess Eleanor." Before anyone understood his words, the sea crystal released a brilliant beam of blue light into the sky. Far beyond the ocean, another hidden kingdom answered with the same light. The gates of the forgotten Azure Kingdom had finally awakened. The brilliant blue light from the sea crystal stretched across the endless ocean, connecting Ashford Harbor with a distant land hidden beyond the horizon. Everyone stood in silence as the mysterious beam remained shining between the two kingdoms. Emily held the golden crown, while James gripped the sword of the first king. The captain of the Black Fleet lowered his silver trident, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. Arthur slowly unfolded the ancient map. A new route has appeared. The sea crystal has opened the passage to the Azure Kingdom. Sophia looked toward the glowing sea. Then the forgotten kingdom truly survived. The mysterious captain stepped ashore, alone, leaving his soldiers behind. He removed his helmet, revealing a young man with calm blue eyes and silver hair. Emily carefully watched him. "Who are you?" The stranger knelt respectfully before her. "My name is Adrian, royal captain of the Azure Kingdom. I came searching for Princess Elena." "Not for war." James remained cautious. "Then why bring an entire fleet?" Adrian lowered his head. "Because the Dark Sea Emperor follows us. If we had traveled alone, he would have destroyed our kingdom before reaching Ashford." Arthur suddenly remembered the old legends. The Sea Emperor ruled the Western Ocean centuries ago, before the 4 royal relics sealed him beneath the sea. Adrian nodded. "His prison is breaking. Only the golden crown, the sea crystal, the sword of the first king, and the missing sky jewel can seal him forever." Before anyone could answer, the sea began shaking violently. Dark clouds gathered above the water as enormous waves surrounded the harbor. A gigantic whirlpool slowly formed in the center of the ocean. From its depths rose a massive black fortress, built entirely from ancient stone and covered with glowing blue chains. The chains shattered one by one. A deep voice echoed across the sea. "After 1,000 years, I am finally free." The water exploded into the sky. An enormous shadow, surrounded by black lightning, slowly emerged from the whirlpool. Even the royal guardian White Wolf lowered its head. Arthur whispered with fear, "The Dark Sea Emperor has awakened." Emily looked toward James with unwavering courage. Their greatest battle had finally arrived. The ocean shook with terrifying force as the Dark Sea Emperor rose from the endless whirlpool. His enormous body towered above every warship while black lightning surrounded his ancient armor. Waves crashed against the cliffs as frightened soldiers struggled to keep their ships from sinking. Emily stood beside James, holding the golden crown, while Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, and the royal guardians prepared for the battle that legends had feared for 1,000 years. The Sea Emperor slowly opened his glowing blue eyes. "At last the 4 royal relics have returned. Soon all their power will belong to me." He stretched one massive hand toward the harbor. The sea crystal trembled inside the ancient lighthouse. Arthur quickly studied the glowing map. "If he captures the sea crystal before we find the sky jewel, nothing will stop him." Adrian stepped beside James. "There is only one place where the sky jewel can still exist, the sky temple floating above the Azure Kingdom." James looked toward the distant ocean. "How do we reach a temple in the sky?" Adrian pointed toward his flagship. "The royal windship was built for that journey. It can sail across both sea and clouds." Emily gathered everyone aboard the magnificent ship while the royal guardians remained behind, protecting Ashford Harbor. The great White Wolf watched silently from the cliffs before releasing a mighty roar that echoed across the sea. The royal windship raised glowing silver sails and sailed directly toward the brilliant beam of blue, light connecting both kingdoms. Behind them, the Dark Sea Emperor laughed as hundreds of monstrous sea creatures emerged from the waves surrounding the ship. Gigantic serpents, armored sharks, and enormous shadow whales charged through the storm. James drew the sword of the first king, while Sophia and Adrian defended both sides of the ship. Emily lifted the golden crown, sending waves of golden light across the ocean, forcing several monsters back into the sea. Hours later, the storm suddenly disappeared. Above the clouds, a breathtaking island floated peacefully beneath the morning sun. Crystal waterfalls poured into the sky, while a magnificent white temple stood at its center, shining brighter than the stars. Arthur smiled with hope. The Sky Temple. But before the ship could land, a beautiful woman wearing silver wings stepped onto the temple bridge. She raised a glowing crystal bow toward the travelers. "Only the chosen may enter the temple of the sky jewel." The royal wind ship floated gently above the clouds as its silver Sails shimmered beneath the morning sun. Before the travelers stood the magnificent Sky Temple, built entirely from white crystal and glowing marble. Endless waterfalls flowed upward into the sky, while floating gardens surrounded the ancient sanctuary. Emily held the golden crown, James carried the sword of the first king, and Adrian guided the ship toward the shining bridge. The beautiful guardian lowered her glowing crystal bow, but kept the arrow aimed directly at the visitors. Her silver wings stretched wide as brilliant feathers drifted through the air. "Stop where you stand. Only those chosen by the 4 royal relics may enter." Emily slowly stepped forward without fear. "We seek the Sky Jewel. The Dark Sea Emperor has awakened." The winged guardian carefully studied the golden crown and the sword of the first king. For the first time, her expression softened. She gently lowered her bow. "Then the prophecy has begun. My name is Lyra. I have protected the Sky Temple for many generations, waiting for the rightful queen." She opened the great crystal gates. Inside the temple stood enormous pillars reaching beyond the clouds. Beautiful murals told the story of the 4 royal relics and the ancient heroes who once united them. Arthur quietly read the oldest inscription. "When the crown, the sword, the sea crystal, and the sky jewel become one, the eternal gate shall open." James looked toward Arthur. "What lies beyond the eternal gate?" Before Arthur could answer, the temple floor trembled violently. Dark clouds swallowed the bright sky. The Dark Sea Emperor had found the floating island. His enormous shadow surrounded the temple, while hundreds of flying shadow beasts filled the heavens. Lyra quickly looked toward Emily. "There is no time. The Sky Jewel rests inside the Hall of Light, but only the Queen may touch it." Emily, James, Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, and Lyra rushed through the glowing corridors toward the center of the temple. At the end of the hall floated a magnificent blue crystal surrounded by golden rings of light. Emily reached toward it. The moment her fingers touched the sky jewel, brilliant light burst across the sky. Far beyond the clouds, another enormous golden gate slowly appeared above the world. Arthur stared upward in complete disbelief. The eternal gate has opened, and something ancient is coming through it. The heavens trembled as the eternal gate slowly opened above the floating Sky Temple. Brilliant streams of golden light poured across the clouds, while every royal relic began shining with ancient power. Emily held the sky jewel in both hands as the golden crown glowed upon her head. James stood beside her carrying the sword of the first king, while Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, and Lyra watched the magnificent gateway appear high above the world. Suddenly, the Dark Sea Emperor released a terrifying roar. "No! The eternal gate must never open." He commanded thousands of flying shadow beasts to attack the temple. Black creatures filled the sky like a living storm. Surrounding the floating island, Lyra spread her silver wings and launched glowing crystal arrows through the heavens, while Adrian led the royal windship directly into the battle. James fought across the temple bridge using the sword of the first king. Each strike released waves of blue light, destroying countless shadow creatures. Emily raised the sky jewel toward the eternal gate. A brilliant beam connected the crystal to the heavens. The giant gate slowly opened completely. From within the golden light, an enormous white dragon emerged. Its shining scales reflected every color of the sunrise, while 4 crystal horns surrounded its majestic head. Ancient golden armor covered its body, and its glowing eyes rested gently upon Emily. Arthur slowly knelt. The eternal guardian, the first protector of the 4 royal relics. The great dragon circled above the Sky Temple before landing peacefully before Emily. Without speaking, it lowered its head, accepting her as the rightful queen chosen by destiny. The Dark Sea Emperor attacked with all his remaining strength, sending a wave of black lightning toward the dragon. The eternal guardian spread its massive wings. A shield of pure golden light appeared, protecting everyone. The lightning vanished without leaving a single mark. The dragon looked toward Emily. A voice echoed inside her heart. "The final battle cannot be won here. The source of the darkness lies beyond the eternal gate. Only there can the Sea Emperor be defeated forever." Before anyone could react, the eternal gate expanded into a glowing passage leading toward another mysterious world beyond the stars. Emily, James, and their companions looked into the endless light. Their greatest adventure had only just begun. The glowing passage beyond the eternal gate stretched across the stars like a bridge of pure light. Emily stood at its entrance, wearing the golden crown, while James held the sword of the first king. The eternal guardian lowered its great head, inviting them to follow. Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, and Lyra exchanged determined glances before stepping into the mysterious gateway together. Behind them, the Dark Sea Emperor gathered his remaining shadow army, refusing to let them escape. The moment they crossed the eternal gate, the world around them completely changed. There was no sun, no moon, and no ocean. Instead, endless floating islands drifted through a brilliant sky filled with glowing rivers of light. Crystal mountains floated upside down, while giant waterfalls flowed upward into the heavens. Ancient temples rested upon clouds untouched by time. Arthur stared around in amazement. This is the celestial realm, the birthplace of the four royal relics. The eternal guardian landed upon a vast crystal platform where four magnificent pillars surrounded a glowing circle. At the center floated a radiant crystal known as the heart of creation. Emily felt the golden crown gently pulling her toward the crystal. As she stepped closer, mysterious voices echoed through the air. "Welcome, Queen of Ashford. You have restored hope to every kingdom, but the greatest darkness has not yet awakened." Suddenly, the crystal platform trembled violently. Dark cracks spread across the shining floor. The Dark Sea Emperor burst through the eternal gate, with his shadow army filling the celestial realm. With black smoke and thunder, the eternal guardian roared as golden dragons appeared from the clouds, joining the ancient protector. James raised the sword of the first king, while Adrian, Lyra, Sophia, and the royal guardians prepared for another battle. Then the heart of creation suddenly split open. A beautiful young woman dressed in radiant white robes slowly emerged, surrounded by brilliant light. Every ancient dragon immediately bowed before her. Arthur fell to one knee. "The first queen, the creator of the four royal relics." She looked toward Emily with calm eyes. "The final battle begins now. Only one queen can decide the fate of every world." The celestial realm shook beneath endless storms as the armies of light and shadow gathered around the heart of creation. The first queen stood upon the glowing crystal platform, wearing robes brighter than the rising sun. Emily stepped forward, wearing the golden crown, while James remained beside her, holding the sword of the first king. Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, Lyra, and the eternal guardian prepared for the final battle that would decide the future of every kingdom. The Dark Sea Emperor slowly approached, surrounded by black lightning. His shadow army covered the floating islands, while dark dragons circled above the battlefield. The first queen raised one hand. Silence filled the heavens. She looked toward Emily. The four royal relics were never created to rule kingdoms. They were created to protect hope. Only one person may unite their power. Emily gently placed the golden crown upon her head, while James held the sword beside her. Adrian presented the glowing sea crystal, and Lyra carefully placed the sky jewel into Emily's hands. The four ancient relics suddenly floated into the air, surrounding the young queen. Brilliant light spread across the entire celestial realm. The Dark Sea Emperor roared with fury. "Destroy her now." Thousands of shadow warriors charged across the crystal plains, while the eternal guardian and the golden dragons flew into battle. James fought fearlessly, protecting Emily as Sophia, Adrian, and Lyra defended every path leading toward the heart of creation. The sky filled with dragons, swords, magic, and brilliant light. The first queen quietly stepped beside Emily. "There is only one way to end this war forever. All four relics must become one. But the one who unites them will lose every royal power forever." Emily looked toward the people fighting for their future. She smiled peacefully. A true queen does not live for power. She lives for her people. Without hesitation, Emily reached toward the floating relics. The golden crown, the sword of the first king, the sea crystal, and the sky jewel merged into one magnificent sphere of pure light. The heavens exploded with golden energy. The Dark Sea Emperor looked upward in horror. For the first time in 1,000 years, he realized he could lose. The celestial realm shone brighter than ever before as the four royal relics merged into a single sphere of pure golden light. Above the floating islands, the heavens opened while rivers of light flowed across the endless sky. Emily stood at the center of the heart of creation, surrounded by the eternal guardian, the golden dragons, James, Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, Lyra, and the First Queen. The Dark Sea Emperor stared upward, unable to believe. The ancient prophecy had finally come true. The glowing sphere slowly descended into Emily's hands. Its light surrounded her with warmth and peace. The First Queen smiled gently. This is the light of creation. It cannot destroy through hatred. It can only defeat darkness through hope. The Dark Sea Emperor gathered every remaining shadow warrior around him. His enormous body grew larger than the floating mountains, while black lightning covered the heavens. If I fall, every world will fall with me. He released a wave of darkness across the celestial realm. Entire islands disappeared beneath black clouds. James ran toward Emily, raising the sword of the First King. "You are not alone." The eternal guardian roared across the heavens. Golden dragons joined the battle, pushing back the shadow beasts, while Adrian, Sophia, Lyra, and the royal guardians defended the heart of creation. With unshakable courage, Emily slowly lifted the light of creation toward the sky. The brilliant sphere released countless rays of golden light, spreading across every kingdom, every mountain, every ocean, and every hidden land. The darkness touching the world began disappearing. Shadow warriors dissolved into glowing stars. Black dragons transformed into creatures of light. Even the endless storm above the heavens slowly faded. The Dark Sea Emperor fell to his knees. His terrifying armor shattered into dust. For the first time, his true face appeared. He was no monster, only an ancient king consumed by grief after losing his family many centuries before. Tears filled his eyes. "I only wanted my kingdom back." Emily gently stepped toward him. "Your people do not need revenge. They need peace." The light of creation surrounded the ancient king. His darkness disappeared forever. Smiling peacefully, he slowly became part of the golden light filling the heavens. The war had ended, but the First Queen quietly looked beyond the stars. One final secret still remained hidden beyond the edge of creation. Peace returned to the celestial realm as the light of creation spread across every floating island. Golden dragons soared through clear blue skies, while the eternal guardian rested beside the heart of creation, Emily, James, Adrian. Sophia, Arthur, Lyra, and the First Queen watched the darkness disappear from every corner of the heavens. Every kingdom across the world had finally been saved. Yet the First Queen continued, looking toward the endless stars beyond the eternal gate. Emily quietly walked beside her. "The war is over. Why do you still seem worried?" The First Queen gently smiled. "Because creation itself still hides one final mystery." She raised her hand toward the distant heavens. A brilliant silver star suddenly began shining brighter than all the others. Arthur opened the ancient map one final time. To everyone's surprise, the map continued growing beyond its final page. New lands, new skies, and another forgotten realm slowly appeared. Arthur whispered with amazement. The map was never complete. It was waiting for this moment. Suddenly, the silver star descended from the heavens, becoming a magnificent crystal staircase, leading far beyond the clouds. At its highest point stood a beautiful white palace unlike anything they had ever seen. The Eternal Guardian lowered its head respectfully. Even the golden dragons bowed before the palace. James looked toward the First Queen. "What is that place?" Her voice became almost a whisper. "The Kingdom of Origins. The place where every royal bloodline, every ancient guardian, and every sacred relic was first created." Before anyone could continue, a young child dressed in glowing white robes slowly walked down the crystal staircase. The child smiled warmly at Emily. "Welcome home, Queen of all kingdoms." Everyone stood speechless. The child gently held Emily's hand. "Your journey was never only about saving kingdoms. It was about becoming the guardian of every world that exists." The crystal palace doors slowly opened. Inside, countless worlds floated like shining stars, waiting to be protected. Emily looked toward James. Together they stepped forward without fear. Behind them, every friend followed into the kingdom of origins. A new chapter beyond every legend had just begun. Golden light filled the kingdom of origins as Emily, James, Adrian, Sophia, Arthur, Lyra, and the Eternal Guardian stepped through the magnificent Crystal Palace. Beyond its endless halls floated countless worlds shining like stars. Each one carried its own kingdoms, people, and history, waiting to be protected. The child dressed in white robes smiled warmly, leading them toward the center of the palace. There, upon a crystal throne, rested the Book of Creation. Its pages turned by themselves, revealing the story of every world, ever born and every future yet to come. The child gently placed a hand upon the glowing book. Every queen before you protected only one kingdom. You are the first to unite them all. Emily quietly looked across the endless palace. I never wanted power. I only wanted peace for my people. The child smiled. That is exactly why you were chosen. Suddenly every royal relic appeared before her. The golden crown, the sword of the first king, the sea crystal, the sky jewel. They slowly transformed into streams of pure golden light before entering Emily's heart. Their power no longer belonged to objects. It now lived within the queen herself. James stepped beside her, smiling proudly. No matter where destiny leads us, I will always stand beside you. Emily gently held his hand, and I will never walk alone. The first queen approached, carrying a small silver crown, unlike any crown seen before. She carefully placed it upon Emily's head. From this day forward, you are not only Queen of Ashford. You are the guardian queen of every world. At that moment, every kingdom across every land and every ocean filled with brilliant light. Children laughed, families embraced. One by one, every ancient curse disappeared. Forests bloomed. Rivers became clear, and peace spread farther than anyone believed possible. Arthur closed the ancient map for the final time. Its pages had become completely blank. There were no more hidden kingdoms left to discover. Every lost land had finally been found. As the Eternal Guardian soared across the shining heavens golden, dragons followed behind while Emily and James looked toward the endless stars. Together they smiled, knowing that no matter how many new worlds awaited them, they would face every adventure side by side with hope, courage, and love. Their story became the greatest legend ever told. The end